Hey everyone, this is Chala Dinkoy, the repositioner, the repositioning expert. I'm here with another edition of Tuesday Tea Time with Chala. My workout was interrupted by road work. I couldn't get in, so it's just a whole mess. So I'm doing this at an earlier time. I'm hoping later I'm gonna either have a nap or have a workout. I'm not sure. You see behind me the new water splash, they call it. The countertop, it actually has a matching, you can't really see. I wonder if I could lift it so you can see a little bit. Yeah, you can see the backsplash, but the doors haven't come in yet, so that hasn't happened. So you can see the insides of my covers. Isn't that lovely? You could see a lot of things on Tuesday Tea Time with Chala. You just, the marketing stuff is just the bonus stuff. But I do have some really great information to give you this Tuesday Tea Time with Chala. Let me take a sip. It's always too hot for me. Now I'm asking at Tim Hortons, I'm asking people who are working there to put in a couple of ice pieces. And the other day at Second Cup, they put in too many. So I was like cold. Okay. All right. So let's talk about how to prep for a matchmaker meeting. Now, if you know me through the circles of diversity, where I do a lot of speaking, and 2 years ago I used to do a lot of conferencing and networking in those circles. What diversity groups do is they get matchmaking meeting between the actual WBEs, which is the Women Business Enterprises, and the MBEs, which are the minority business owners, and the corporation. And right now, that's my super niche, is I work almost exclusively with WBEs and MBEs. And one of my clients is right now preparing for a matchmaking meeting. And as always, I prepare for these as I'm preparing them. So, it's always on my mind. So I want to share with you some of the things that we are doing together. Now, some considerations for a matchmaking meeting is that based on all the training that I do, and I involve the organizers who actually work at the matchmaking organizations, the diversity organizations, the number one pet peeve of buyers is when the supplier shows up and has not done any preparation. They don't even know who they are. And they have no idea how they can work together or what to even talk about during this meeting. It is like hugely shocking, but it is the number one pet peeve. So, mostly these are the smaller businesses who have not prepared. But if that's you, or if you have people who are going to them, this is how you can prepare them. It's just, don't go unprepared. You may as well just not go. Okay, so the number two consideration is that was the match strategically done? Meaning, was it intentional? Because whatever your profile says or whatever your marketing says about you, whatever information you put about you is the way that either they're going to match you or they're going to do it randomly. So if what you're saying about what you do and who you help is so generic that people are constantly matchmaking you with the wrong kind of companies, then you have to really take a good look at how you're talking about yourself, what your profile says, what your elevator pitch is, what your capability statement description is. Those can be throwing people off, right? So that's one thing to look for. The other is, in some instances, it's just random. You can't do anything about it. But here's what to do once you find out who it is. And in some cases, I've heard that you don't even know who it is. You're just walking into a black box. But again, if you have a specialty in certain area in terms of the industry, then, and you talk about that and you say that you want to be matched with that, that's what you normally end up getting matched with, because all of your marketing, all of your assets, all of your elevator pitch and your descriptors are about that one industry. So a lot of people are trying to be industry agnostic. Get that, that's fine. But one of the things that we've done with one of the clients is to look at the, in Canada, it's called the SIC code. In the US, it's called the NAICS, which is the standardized industry code. So we reposition into a different code so that we will get picked for that meeting. So for example, a promotional products company she went, and because we repositioned her as a solution and HR solution provider in the topic of the Great Resignation, something that I talk about here a lot. She has gone ahead and picked certain different codes to be able to enable matchmaking and people who are looking for solutions in those areas. So make sure that you are very clear on who you target and what you help with. This is the whole aspect of super niching. Okay. So here are the oh my gosh, I started with 5 steps, but it actually went to 8 steps, you guys, 8 steps to prepare. So the first one is, obviously, once you find out who it is or what industry it is, research their pain and position yourself into a solution about that pain in the industry. And so here are some of the other ways that you can position yourself in front of them or before you meet with them or throughout. So here are some examples. Okay, so that would be the second step to prep. So the first is you find out the research. The second is message how you can help with your elevator pitch. So remember the elevator pitch, that's something that I talk about a lot. The perfect formula for the perfect elevator pitch is who you help, which is the industry or interest group, plus a pain statistic. What is it that you're helping them with? And then plus how you help, plus the result of what you help them with or what you do to help them. So that's the perfect pitch formula. And you start, come in, sit down after the pleasantries and say, well, this is what we do. But the elevator pitch is really about their pain, right? You're giving them, as soon as you open your mouth, you're giving them in the 30 seconds, an elevator pitch that says, I'm an expert in your pain, and here's the solution, and here's how I solve it, and here's what the results are. So number 3, the third step in prepping for your matchmaking is you craft a capability statement that is around that cornerstone elevator pitch, which is about their pain. And remember, the more specific you get, the better it is. I just had a sales conversation with a client who has a healthcare app that reduces the cost of insurance for corporations. That is so overly used because it's so generic, so big, that there is no differentiation in saying, yes, that's a pain, and yes, I help with that pain. But it doesn't help when too many people are using that. So my advice as a messaging expert is to try to cut that down into a more specific facet of the pain. So be a specialist and only talk about the one facet of the pain. There's tons of places where I train on this. I do my podcast, which is the Polish My Pitch podcast, which is the 5 minutes. So I talk about this a lot in my writings and everything. And you could watch some episodes of the Tuesday Tea Time. That'll also give you an idea of what I mean by messaging on one facet of the pain. Okay, so number 4, the step to prep for this meeting, for the matchmaking meeting, is tell 3 to 4 stories, depending on how long you have. Some matchmakers are 20 minutes, some matchmakers are just a couple of minutes. So, but you need to tell stories of, and the story construct is always the same for every content that you have, which is what the client was in pain with. And it has to be the same and similar pain that they had, and they have to be a same and similar client who is in a similar industry, in the same industry, or has the same construct. Like you can't be comparing a Delta Air with, Sally's basket weaving services. It has to be in the same level, preferably the same industry. So tell 3 to 4 stories, and the construct is what the pain was, what the solution was, and what the result was. So you need to put that all together into anecdotal 3 to 4 stories, and make sure that the result and the pain match up, and make sure that the results have some sort of numbers in it. Okay. Most people really care about money, cost. So numerics about increase, improvement, savings, whatever it is. Then step number 5 is validate. So this is the conversation piece. Validate if they have the same problem. So in fact, I actually do this when I used to do the networking. And of course I haven't networked in years, but when people would ask me, what is it that you do? I would tell them what I did, which would be around their pain. So I would say 3 out of 4 business owners, WBEs, never get a meeting after introducing themselves to the buyer. And what I do is I fix what they're saying so that every hello turns into a meeting. And then I would say, does that happen with you? Are you one of those? Are you, the lucky few that have gotten away from that statistic, or are you in that statistic? And most of the time, of course, they were already in that statistic, and they would say, yeah, I never get meetings either because I always introduce myself and my elevator pitch doesn't work. I'm leaving money on the table. So that's why I want you to use that meeting to have a two-way dialogue about, are you also facing this kind of problem? And then they're going to tell you, no, we're not in that kind of problem. We're the very, either they don't know or they're lying or whatever, but at least you could say, well, if you're not facing that kind of problem, then what is the most persistent and costly problem that you're facing that you'd like to hire around, that you're actively looking for solutions around? So that's the two-way dialogue portion. And then step number 6 in prepping for and what to do in this matchmaking meeting is ask the diversity or the procurement person that you're meeting with to pass on either a physical or electronic solution to the pain that you have already researched that they have, that you are positioning yourself as an expert in. So this is like the extra sauce of what we do is we, first of all, position ourselves into a certain industry's pain. We produce something of value to them that they're literally looking for, like beating, day and night, talking to people, looking for solutions. Then we contact them even before the meeting, the matchmaking meeting, and we tell them we're going to be meeting X, Y, and Z people if we know, and we try to find out at this matchmaking meeting, but that will be sending them something of value around that pain that that we know that their industry tells us they're struggling with. And then we use the meeting to actually use the diversity officer or the procurement officer to convey that gift or that electronic file or whatever it is. And then we follow up after with the actual buyer. So that's what we do. Now, the extra juice, last step, the step number 8 to prepping for the matchmaking meeting is validate if this niche that you've positioned yourself into, if you haven't already worked on your niche and you don't have a specific niche, because you're in front of, let's say, and I keep mentioning Delta Airlines because my client is going to be meeting with them, but let's say, you're directly preparing yourself for that industry. I want you to take the opportunity to look at other industry players that you could also help and see whether the niche that you're picking to talk about in terms of how you can help, what you can help them with in that industry is valid for a growth vehicle for you. So should you be calling 5 other airlines to actually talk about the Great Resignation and how your promotional products are going to help form a funnel so that, existing people existing employees are going to stay happily employed, and how you can launch programs for engagement and so on. So the last step is validate whether the niche that you've picked to talk about during this matchmaker is actually a valid niche to grow. And then change your marketing, your messaging, and your plans to sync up with that niche. If in fact you find that there is a valid niche market opportunity around that niche. Okay. So I'm going to run through the 8 steps really quickly again, because that's a lot. I'm giving you a lot of information. I mean, I am preparing, as I said, my client for this. I'm preparing lots of clients for this all the time, but just this one specific one. So these are the steps that we're going through. Research their pain and position. And in researching, by the way, we're looking at their annual reports. We're looking at their news releases. We're looking at their marketing, whatever they're doing, what's happening on their end. 2 is message how you can help with, your elevator pitch to begin with. 3 is message the same thing in your capability statement. 4 is tell the 3 to 4 stories of how you've helped others in that pain and what the results were. 5 is ask them if they have the same problem and validate if they're suffering from the same problem. If not, switch track right away. Number 6 is ask that person that you're meeting with to actually deliver something of value, through either electronically or physically to your actual buyer. Number 7 is contact your actual, department buyer before and after to follow up, to first set them up and queue them up to receive this gift, and then after to follow up whether they've gotten it. And then the extra juice, step number 8, is validate if this niche that you've created for this meeting is valid enough for you to explode out into others in that industry. So that was my, my Tuesday tea time. I am going to go back into, I'm actually going to be taping a podcast right after this in 9 minutes. Whew. So have an amazing week. And hopefully you guys next week, next week I'm going to be with my parents in Montreal. So it's hilarious because my dad, who's like over 80, he's very, very technical, but when I'm doing a live or when I'm having like a Zoom meeting, he does not care. He just walks and like, he's listening to his music. He turns on his stuff. It's hilarious. And I'm like, I'm on, and he doesn't care. So you might meet him next week. It's great. You don't know. I don't know. But but I should definitely have the cupboards back before I go. So you will see a full kitchen reno, and you won't be able to see the bottoms because the bottoms are going to be black and the tops are going to be white. All right, everyone. Have a good one. Take care.